Joel Embiid loves and has a great chemistry with. And Simmons and Drummond, a good backup center, who's been, by the way, the best backup for Joel Embiid probably that he's ever had. I think that's as close to, quote-unquote, everything as the Nets were going to get here. And I think, look, both teams got what they wanted. I think it's a good trade for Brooklyn, a good trade for Philly.
So I want to go to the other side now. We focus a lot on the James Harden side of this, and we're going to be digging into this more all show long. But, Shanae, as a big, how do you see Ben Simmons fitting with the Brooklyn Nets?
I think it's really fascinating here because I think balance. When we had the big three, there was no balance. It was all offense, no defense. And one thing I love about Ben Simmons is his defensive prowess, his ability to be positionless. And then you get these rebounds and you go. And guess what? He's going to have one job. Find Kevin Durant. Another job, hopefully, on the road. Find Kyrie Irving. And so I think this is not a horrible scenario for either party. And I'd be remiss to not mention the James Harden effect, if I may, because, I mean, as we see Ben, I mean, that's what I love about him. You know, his tenacity. He brings a lot of intangibles to the game. He's led the league in a number of categories defensively, like deflections and also getting steals. The pace of the game is faster. So imagine KD with an increased pace and someone that catches a ball and can throw it from the corner of his shoulder all the way to KD running down, spotting up where you know you can't double him. You know, that's going to be a dangerous, lethal scenario. The James side, I think, is equally fascinating. Just because Joel Embiid has been waiting for a guard that can dominate but also can space the floor. James Harden is that guard. He really is. I think, obviously, it's contingent on him, finding his game quickly, as we've seen him be able to do. But I love this. That pick and roll is going to be wild. You've got the step back three if you, Shade versus Joel Embiid, or you can give it to Joel. I would literally be playing with two guys on one side of the court and three guys spacing the floor so that if the help recovers, you've got shooters outside. So both sides of this is fascinating. And the most interesting part, still in the same conference.
Absolutely, Zach.
The Brooklyn Nets now become the greatest theoretical team in league history.
Weren't you saying they already were?
A team that we almost never got to see. A team that looked absolutely spectacular. And, yeah, they were average on defense. Average on defense when you're the greatest offense in the history of Earth is good enough to win. We saw them for 16 games, and they are gone. And you mentioned Kyrie, okay? And I think that's the name we got to bring up now. Because I agree with everybody on this panel and behind the scenes who I've been talking to that Ben Simmons, great fit in Brooklyn with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Two shooters, two scorers. He can be there, Draymond Green, be the defensive player of the year, facilitate, set screens. And this is one of the reasons you get 3 stars. It goes wrong, you flip one, you get another star and some draft picks. All that said, that fit sounds great. Is Kyrie Irving playing? Is he playing home games? Is he going to be on the team next year? Do we have any idea? Do we have any idea? Because if he gets vaccinated, I just don't think any of this goes haywire like this.
Well, an important note is that Ben Simmons, as Ramona Shelburne has reported in the last couple of weeks, is vaccinated. And so that makes a difference being able to play in Brooklyn, Richard.
Who? What did you say? You said Ben is? Oh,
yes.
yeah. Obviously, I think that might have been a question you asked. You didn't want to bring in 2 guys that are vaccinated. That would be a bad situation.
What is that noise?
We didn't do our homework here. Hey, just by the way, is Ben and are these guys vaccinated? Yeah. Okay, cool. No, look, everybody knows it's all about Kyrie. I love the Seth Curry pickup. I think Drummond, they were looking for a big center, somebody that can fill the paint. Claxton was good, but I don't think he was quite there yet. But this is a quality thing. And like when I was joking saying, my bad for Milwaukee, well, Milwaukee is the defending champs. They are the steadiest team, and they should fear no one. But ultimately, number 2 and number 3 just got better. This Eastern Conference is a monster now. And especially if these guys come back, play, and are impactful, that road to the championship just got a lot harder for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Right now, Philly should be the favorite to win these. They have the best duo in the game of basketball in James Harden and Joel Embiid. And you tell me what offense or what defense is going to stop them. Both of these guys are great at getting at the free throw line. Both of these guys are unguardable. And like Shanae, like you just said, putting them in the pick and roll, going late game isolation, clearing one side, going 2-man game. How are you going to do it? Oh, let me be quiet. Woj is ready.
Well, Adrian Wojnarowski is joining us live after breaking the news of this blockbuster trade that sends James Harden to Philadelphia and brings Ben Simmons and multiple others to Brooklyn. Woj, what more can you tell us about how this deal came together?
Well, Brooklyn and Philadelphia really started to negotiate in earnest today. I was told Philadelphia had checked in previous days, had lobbed offers that had been returned without a counter. But today, Brooklyn started to talk about with Philadelphia what a deal would look like, and where it lands is James Harden, who'll go along with Paul Millsap to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and then a 2022 unprotected first-round pick in this coming draft, a 2027 protected pick that might flip to 28. But obviously the key elements here, Brooklyn was ready to move off of James Harden, and it was clear he didn't want to be there anymore. They knew that, and they got enough back in their minds to try to put a team on the floor this year and then beyond that can still compete for a championship. But James Harden, listen, this has been the goal of Daryl Morey since the day he arrived in Philadelphia. He wasn't able to trade for James Harden with the Houston Rockets. The Brooklyn Nets did. And now just a year later, Harden has essentially forced his way out of a second team in consecutive years. He goes to Philadelphia. He's been paired with a lot of stars in this league, and he gets a new one. Joel Embiid, a new co-star, and Ben Simmons comes to Brooklyn. We'll see how quickly Simmons is able to be able to get into the lineup, play. Seth Curry, certainly an impactful player, especially with Joe Harris. The rest of his season uncertain with an injury, but the blockbuster is done. James Harden is headed to the Philadelphia 76ers, and Ben Simmons is going to be in net.
Two players that remain on the 76ers roster are Matisse Thybulle and Tyrese Maxey. Why was it important, Woj, for them to stay with Philadelphia?
Well, I think the leverage the Sixers had was that Brooklyn knew that he was likely headed there in free agency this summer. And Brooklyn would have loved, I think, either of those players. I think they got back, given the situation they're in, they get back a package here that they could obviously live with. But the Sixers are able to keep Thybulle and obviously able to keep Tyrese Maxey, which I think was a non-starter for them.
Woj, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man. We will see you back here soon. Really appreciate it. I do want to bring it back to the panel just for a moment here because, Perk, I interrupted your thought in the middle of this. We know Paul Millsap, he also has been out for personal reasons for several games here. He wanted a trade. He got that. But your thoughts on this trade?
Well, he didn't want to be around that culture either. He didn't want to deal with Kyrie nonsense either. That's probably why he was out. I'm not, I don't know that for facts, but I'm just assuming. But when you look at this 76ers team, okay, when you look at this 76ers team, we know Joel Embiid right now, we could argue that he's probably the best player in the NBA. One could say that. Over the last few months, he has proven to us that he's the best player in the NBA.
Better than Giannis?
I said what I said.
I just want
the most dominant.
Okay,
No,
dominant with the best.
No, it's not. It's two completely different conversations.
And domination.
Yeah. So I'm not with this. I'm not with this. But listen, when you think about James Harden, we thought last year in Houston before he got traded to the Nets, he was fat and out of shape. And then all of a sudden, as soon as he stepped foot in Brooklyn,
his hamstring gonna feel a lot better.
Exactly.
His hamstring's gonna feel a lot better.
And guess what? He's going to have something to prove. But I'm gonna take you a little deeper real quick. See, this is the problem, right? Let me tell you how James Harden ended up in Brooklyn. See, it goes all the way back in time when KD signed with Golden State, okay? James Harden wanted Kevin Durant, his friend that he played with in Oklahoma City, to come to Houston. KD turned that down. At a point of time, KD and James did not speak for years. So all of a sudden you get to this point last year where they acquired James Harden to try to get their friendship back together, try to get this thing back together and try to win a ring together. So James is like, all right, I'm going to give up everything that I got in Houston. I'm going to come down there to Brooklyn. Let's get it rocking. Let's try to win. And he get there, and it's not what it's expected.
Well, let me ask you this then, Zach. Is James Harden in a better position? Because we know at the end of the day, what James Harden wants is to win. It's what he told me at the beginning of the year when I sat down with him. It's what he told me